Hello and welcome to another video. I thought this would look a lot better set up, and it doesn't. It looks pretty crap. But basically, this video is going to be about my gear, the gear I use to shoot my astrophotography currently. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I've had a few questions about my gear. So I've been saying for months as well that I'll do a video on my gear. So here we are. And the first thing that we will do is talk about the camera. I've only got the one camera. I've got the Sony A7 III, and I have had it astro modified. I got it modified, I sent it off to the Isle of Wight. I think it's infrared camera conversion, something like that. I'll stick it up on the screen anyway. So yeah, so I sent my camera off. It was last May, 350 quid to get it modded. And I probably should do a video about the different types of mods that you can do for your camera. I don't know, if you want to learn more, let me know. And I'll do a video on it specifically, but basically there are different types of modifications you can send the camera off and have done, the most popular one by far is full spectrum, and what that will do is that will make your camera more sensitive to the H alpha, the pinks, that what the astrophotographers are really after with the cameras. But it will also mean that your camera is completely modified and no filters in front of the sensor at all, and you can use it to shoot infrared through the day if you wanted to, and then you use different filters to get different effects, and it will improve the pinks. But with this being my only camera, what I would then have had to do is you get all the filters taken away from the sensor, and you then have to go and buy filters to put back in front of. If I wanted to use my camera for now, because as I say, it's my only camera and I use it to shoot my YouTube videos as well as shoot my astrophotography, I would have to buy a filter to put back in front of the camera to be able to shoot like this now. Otherwise it would be in infrared, it wouldn't work. So that, for that reason, is why I went for the H alpha mod, as it is called. So basically what happens there is the stock filter that is blocking out that hydrogen alpha light is taken out and replaced with another one. So you won't have the full infrared. It will be basically like a stock camera, except it will be, I think it's like up to like 80–90%, where it's more sensitive to the pink light, the H alpha light, which is the nice Orion pink colors and that you see. So yeah, so that's why I went for that. So all I now do is I'm just using my camera as normal through the day, and it's got a custom white balance set to 3600 Kelvin, and that is how you're able to shoot. It is ever so slightly green, but then all I'll do is I'll stick that in the computer when I edit this and just do the auto white balance, and that will fix any issues with this being green. So if I were to turn it on to, take it out of auto white balance, it would just be basically completely pink. But this way, for me, it was the right thing to do because I don't have a second camera. If I had a dedicated astro camera, then yes, I probably would go full spectrum with it. They're supposed to let in more light and be even more sensitive to the H alpha. But this, for me, because I only had the one camera, was the best way to go. Right, that's the camera done. Apart from, would I recommend sending your camera off to this company to get it modded? And I've been asked this question a few times, and originally I would have said I don't know, and the reason for that is I'll stick the pictures up on screen, but basically there is clearly some glue on my sensor where the new filter has been stuck over, and you can see there are blobs of glue on it. It doesn't look great. Now it makes no difference to the photos. You cannot see it in the photos at all, so realistically it's not an issue, but just because of that, it makes me worry whether how good the work is that's being done. But since then, I've had a few DMs from people who have also sent their camera to the same place, and fair dues to the geezer Alan who runs the company. He has got some really fantastic customer service that I've seen through from other people messaging him. So yes, the answer is I would recommend using this company. As I say, it was like 350 quid, sent it off. I had it back within within 3–4 days, it came back. So I would recommend it. Right, okay, shall I move on to the lenses next? So you probably won't be able to see from where you are, but I have a lot of Samyang glass, and I really like Samyang glass. Like, basically, in my opinion, for the money, they are absolutely fantastic lenses. And I think for the money, they're well worth the price compared to, you know, the Sony equivalents or any of the competition equivalents. They perform really well, and they're a lot cheaper than. So if I work up from the top, this is the newest one that I've got, is the Samyang 135 f2. This is the old one, the manual focus one. I've only just got this, I've only had it a few weeks, and this is for, I've started to dabble in a little bit of deep space. Now this is a fantastic lens optically, but also it's really well regarded in the astro community because it's a great beginner lens for getting into deep space. So I've been taking a few of the wider field of the larger targets in deep space, and I'm really enjoying doing that. Okay, so the next one is the very first Samyang that I got, and that is the 14mm, and I shot this for years, just with my camera and my tripod and this Samyang lens, 14mm, for absolutely years. Again, as a beginner, one of the first lenses you're going to get to astrophotography, it's absolutely fantastic. For it's a great one, and it's basically the basis of my whole Instagram feed. Is I built up my account through this lens. Next one is arguably my favorite. I really like that 135, but arguably my favorite out of these, and it's the 20mm Samyang, and I really like this because it was cheap. I got it off Amazon for 250 quid new when there was an offer, when the prices were reduced. But yeah, so it's cheap, it's bright, 1.8, it's wide, 20mm, and it's reasonably sharp as well. So it was a fantastic all-rounder for me, switching from the 14 to go to still being able to vlog and also get really wide astro images. And the corners of this obviously are way better on the 20mm than they are on the 14. The corners are quite distorted on the 14. But the 20 is a fantastic lens, probably is still my favorite. Moving on to the camera lens that's on the camera now, sorry, is the 24mm 1.8, and that's the new 24mm 1.8 that's got the astro hold button, whatever you call it. And so basically you can, if you turn the camera on holding this button, the lens will go to an infinity point that you've set. So you can set what the infinity is and you just hold it down and it jumps to it. Again, really good lens. I only had manual focus Samyang glass before I got this, and yeah, I've done videos on all of these, I think. Fantastic lens, the 24 as well. Next one is the 85, and this is the 85 1.4. Again, this is a fantastic lens for the money. It's really cheap compared to the Sony equivalents, and it's a 1.4 rather than a 1.8, and it is just as sharp in my opinion. It's a fantastic lens. Now I do have a Sony lens, and this is the 28mm f2. And to be honest, I don't really use it anymore because I've got the Samyang 24. This one I used to use to shoot all of my sit down like this because it was the only lens I had that was autofocus. But I don't really tend to use that anymore, to be honest. Cheeky whiskey. Now my mate Gav got me onto vintage glass, and originally started with this bad boy here, and I don't know if that's going to focus. It is going to focus. And this is a, what is it called now? We are Optimax 300mm f5.6, and I got this off my mate Gav. He got it off Facebook Marketplace or eBay for 20 quid, and that was my first sort of reach into the narrower field, so the deep space stuff when I got this. But all it did was make me want a better lens, which then got me onto another vintage one, which again Gav got for me, which is this weapon here, which is a 400mm f6.3, and I want to say Prinz Galaxy, yeah, Prinz Galaxy. And again, this was 20 quid off Facebook, and this thing is impressively sharp, like really good, really good, that thing. From that part, what I'm trying to say is that it is worth having a go on some vintage glass. Have a look on eBay, on Facebook, pick something up that's cheap. You may get a decent version, you may get a bad version. What I found, like that one is really soft, but this one actually is impressively sharp. So yes, I would say have a go. If you're wanting to get into sort of longer focal lengths for shoot astro, I would definitely recommend first buying vintage glass to see whether those focal lengths work with your setup or not. You highly recommend that, that's great. Next thing then I'm going to jump into is the star tracker. So I got the star tracker around the same time that I got my camera modded, and that is basically what changed the game for my astrophotography. And you'll see from my feed that it was hardly any color in the shots, all static, not stacked, and all wide field with the 14mm. And then from having these done, I went to all of a sudden a lot more color in the images and a lot more detail in them because they were tracked. But basically this is the Skywatcher Star Adventurer. I think it's the number 2 and the Wi-Fi version. The Wi-Fi I've never used. It has an app. That's the only difference between it and the first version. I've never used the app. I don't see the point in using the app. I understand from watching videos about it as well that if you set certain settings on your phone, they will store it in the Skywatcher, and so the next time you use it, it will have them same settings, which may or may not be good for you, but it's not for me. I just use it as it is. So what I would suggest then is try and find a second-hand first gen one and get it cheaper. But massive game changer. Cannot recommend enough getting yourself a star tracker. Really cannot recommend enough. It has changed the game for my Astro completely, and that's what's grown my my account on Instagram, is what I would say, between this and the camera being modded. Cannot recommend it enough to everyone. That was definitely, out of all this money spent, that's probably the best money well spent in terms of astrophotography. Right, changes though that I've made to this tracker is, the first thing is there is a little, will it focus? There is, if you can see on the front just here, there is a little 3D printed glow in the dark in plastic insert that's going into the tracker there, and that's got a little crosshair on it. And basically all you do is you hold your head torch onto this, rather than having to use the little terrible little shitty tea light that comes with the Skywatcher. If you put this in, charge it up with your head torch, it is absolutely fantastic, really bright. And also it looks like it protrudes out a little bit there, but it doesn't get in the way of the bracket, so it can just go in and stay in all the time. Now, my mate Steve gets these 3D printed and is selling them. So what I'll do is I'll drop his Instagram down below. If you go and drop him a DM, then he will send you out one of these. I cannot recommend that enough as well. That was also a bit of a game changer. But the other difference that you'll see is on the back here, and this one is also a bit of a game changer for me. Are we gonna focus? Yeah, this 90 degree eyepiece from Move Shoot Move, and this was like 35 quid I think with Move Shoot Move, and basically you just stick it onto the end of the tracker, and what it does is firstly makes it so that you don't have to kneel down to stare up through the tracker, which again is a second really poor design of this thing. Instead you can just stand over and look down into it. But what it also does that's fantastic is it has a 2x mode on there, and spin that around. And so basically when you try to find Polaris, I've found anyway with this one that mine is not as sharp looking through the magnification, looking through the eyepiece as my mates who've got the same star tracker. So I don't know whether the glass in mine is I don't know, potentially frosty or scratched or whatever. But with this on and switch to 2x mode, you can see, you can zoom right into Polaris. You absolutely nail polar alignment every time. So like I've run this 400mm at 3 minutes using that thing to get it polar aligned without any trailing, so, which is, I think for 400mm, I think that is really good. Okay, I think that's that for that one. Now we're just going into like the little accessories. I've got an intervalometer, just a bog standard one. I've got a head torch. I've only ever bought cheap ones. I've always had really bad luck with them off Amazon. They fucking die every 30 days for me. I've also got a electric hand warmer. And this little thing is really cool. It lasts for about 4 hours. It takes like maybe an hour to charge. And then, yeah, it's literally an electric hand warmer. And the reason why I got this was not just because keeping your hands warm, but also because I bought again, it's from Move Shoot Move. And this is the laser pointer that you get with the move, shoot, move trackers to polar align. Now the reason why I use this is to try and find deep space objects. So what I do is that will sit on the hot shoe of the camera. I'll be shooting with the 135, for example, and then all I've got to do is use the app on my phone to find where a target is that I'm after. Then I will turn the laser on and I will use the declination bracket and use the tracker, move it around so that I point it in the direction of what I'm looking for. And then usually, because the 135 is decently wide, you find the deep space object pretty fast within that. I would say if you go in narrow especially, this is an absolute must, because you just cannot find these targets manually by yourself just by looking up at the sky. You need to be able to use a laser to point in the direction that you want. So I would say that is definitely a must. I've got a lens warmer as well, Kuwu, cheap one off Amazon, 20 quid, something like that. That again is absolutely a must. The first time that you go out shooting and you waste an entire clear night because your lens not freezes over, because it dews over, you will be very pissed off and you will buy one. So I would recommend doing that now. To go in hand with that is a power bank, just a cheap power bank. It was like 20 quid off Amazon, and that then powers the lens warmer, and then will also power my camera if the battery starts to die on that. I think we're almost there, right? So what I've also got, and if I'm shooting wide field, I do think this is a decent bit of kit. This is the Alan Wallace. Again, it's move, shoot, move. This is the Alan Wallace Z bracket. Yeah, that's it. It's the Z bracket. And basically what this does is allow you at any point in any direction to be and any rotation to be able to make it so that the camera is level, and that then makes it easier for doing things like panos, or even just getting the camera to be on a level basis, landscape rather than portrait. For wide fields, so again like up to 24, it'd take the 50, it'd take the 85, but I have tried putting the 135 onto it and it's just too heavy for it. So the slightest bit of wind just makes trailing in the tracked images. So yeah, shooting wide, I think it's a fantastic bit of kit. Slightly overpriced, I would say, but 35 quid it was. You know, it's not too bad. Shooting wide, fantastic bit of kit. So again, to be able to change between shooting landscape to portrait, because if you've got the declination bracket on the tracker, you can't just rotate the camera whichever way you want unless you have one of those sleeves on the lens that allows you to rotate it with the camera on. So all I do is put this onto the camera, and then I can just take it off, switch it to portrait, landscape, however I want to be able to frame up the picture. And then I think we're there. The last thing then is the clipping filter. This is something that I've recently just picked up and I've been making videos about very recently. I will make a video on it, as I've said, but this is a clip-in hydrogen alpha filter for my Sony camera. So basically what that means is it's a light pollution filter. It's a narrow band filter in terms of it only lets a certain amount of light, certain wavelengths of light in, and primarily that is the hydrogen alpha, which is the pinks. So adding this to the modded camera, you just get a lot of pink. Basically it is really, really good. But what it also means is, with it being a clip-in rather than a screw-on, is it works with all of this here. So it was very expensive. It was like 280 quid, but it's a lot cheaper than having to buy a filter for every single one of these lenses. Right, I think that's it. I've done that as quick as I can, but fuck me, it's still 19 minutes. So I will cut it there. I think I've covered everything, but if there are any questions on any of this, just drop it down below and I'll respond to it. So I think that's it, yeah. What do I use the most? I 24mm for vlogging, and I quite like it for wide now, and I'm just really getting into the 135 at the moment. So the tracker, the 135, the 20 and the 24, probably my favorite bits of kit here. One last thing I did forget is this absolutely weapon tripod that I've got over here. So basically, look at the state of that. What I did have previously was just a little cheap K&F a plastic tripod off Amazon. I think I paid 60 quid for it, and it served me well for years. I think it was like a couple of years that I've had it. And again, when I was only shooting static stuff, not tracked, it was fantastic. And if I were to go out shooting, if I know that I'm taking a walk to go and shoot something from the car, then I will bring that, and that's what the camera is sat on now. But for even the slightest bit of wind or the heavier lenses, you'd start to get trailing in on the images with the tracker. So I decided to buy this thing. This is a Skywatcher tripod. This is the steel one, and it is made for telescopes. It's rated to, like, I think it's 20 kilos that it can take. So that's way more than any of this gear. Like, the tracker will only take 5 kilo max payload. So this is massive overkill for that. But what that has meant is, especially if I'm out shooting like wide field, I've shot in 15 up to 20 mile an hour wind before using this thing, because it's just an absolute beast, and not got trailing in the wide field shots. You still get some trailing if it's really windy and you're shooting fairly narrow like the 135. But yeah, I went with this, cost me 100 quid, got it secondhand off eBay. And I went with this because I know that it is overkill. I will never outweigh this. So all I do is I just use this when I'm shooting really close to the car. Right, that is actually it this time. So that's it. That's all my gear. So that's it. Thank you very much. I tried to make it as quick as possible. I hope it answered any questions that you might have about my gear and what I use to capture the images that I do. My Insta and all that is linked down below. I guess I'll link the gear down below as well. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Take care.